Hello, how are you? Good for everybody to be back together. I'm glad you're keeping up with the book. Have you read ahead? Do some of you already know what's going to happen? We'll see when we get in here. Again, it's fine if you've read ahead. Actually, that's probably kind of good for you to read ahead and see if you understand it okay, and then for us to read it together. Now remember, well, I don't know, remember, but let me just tell you, you have to have 4 AR points by May 15th. You can take an AR test on Because of Winn Dixie. I believe, if I remember correctly, I think it's worth 3 points. So that's, if you've been paying good attention, that would be great to take a test on this because we've read it together. I think that would help a little bit. Because you've been taking the AR test, that some of them can be, even if you know the story really well, some of the tests can be a little bit challenging because they ask very specific questions sometimes, don't they? So just, you want to do the best you can, but don't wait till we finish reading this together before you try to do that. That way you just really have it in your mind very well, okay? But that's certainly an option. And if you don't miss any questions and you get 3 points, that's 3 points right there. And then you would only have to have 1 more, which a lot of you have already anyway, okay? All right, so when we left, yeah. Opal had gone to the pet store, and remember Otis was playing his guitar, and the animals were just mesmerized by his music, that they all just sat and listened to him playing his music. And they said that the animals were under a spell, meaning they were just listening to him and they couldn't even move. It was very kind of neat. And it was at this time that Otis told Opal he had been in jail, that was the reason he wanted to be able to let the animals out of their cages, because he knew what it was like to be locked up, and he didn't want that for the animals. He wanted them to be able to be free, that he had been in jail before. And she was kind of like, oh, from what she knows, she thinks he seems like a decent guy, but, if somebody's been in jail, you kind of have to wonder, goodness, that's, what'd you do to be in jail? I don't know. All right, maybe we'll find out, okay? Chapter 13, we're on page 87. You've brushed your hair, you've brushed your teeth, you're ready to go for the day, okay? Chapter 13. Me and Winn Dixie got into a daily routine where we would leave the trailer early in the morning and get down to Gertrude's Pets in time to hear Otis play his guitar music for the animals. Sometimes Sweetie Pie snuck in for the concert too. She sat on the floor and wrapped her arms around Winn Dixie and rocked him back and forth like he was a big old teddy bear. Now, I wonder if Winn Dixie likes that or not. Dogs usually don't like when kids hang all over them like that. And I wonder if Winn Dixie's just such a patient dog that he's like, all right, Sweetie Pie, whatever. Or if he likes it, who knows. And then when the music was over, she would walk around trying to pick out which pet she wanted. But she always gave up and went home, because the only thing she really wanted was a dog like Winn Dixie. After she was gone, I would sweep and clean up and even arrange some of Otis's shelves, because he did not have an eye for arranging things, and I did. And when I was done, Otis would write down my time in a notebook that he had marked on the outside. 1 red leather collar and 1 red leather leash. And the whole time he did not in any way ever act like a criminal. Now remember, criminal we had in the last chapter, and that's just somebody that's been in trouble with the law for some reason. After working at Gertrude's Pets, me and Winn Dixie would go over to the Herman W. Block Memorial Library and talk to Miss Franny Block and listen to her tell us a story. Now, they haven't mentioned Miss Franny in a couple chapters, have they? But remember, she's the librarian, and she's the one that had the episode with the bear reading War and Peace. Remember that story she told? But my favorite place to be that summer was in Gloria Dump's yard. Now remember, when she was first headed for Gloria Dump's yard, the Dewberry boys had said she was a witch. And Opal, now this is her favorite place to go. And I figured it was Winn Dixie's favorite place to be too, because when we got up to the last block before her house, Winn Dixie would break away from my bike and start to run for all he was worth, heading for Gloria Dump's backyard and his spoonful of peanut butter. Sometimes Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry would follow me. They would holler, "There goes the preacher's daughter visiting the witch." "She's not a witch," I told them. It made me mad the way they wouldn't listen to me and kept on believing whatever they wanted to believe about Gloria Dump. One time Stevie said to me, "My mama says you shouldn't be spending all your time cooped up in that pet shop and at the library sitting around talking with old ladies. She says you should get out in the fresh air and play with kids your own age. That's what my mama says." "Oh, lay off her," Dunlap said to Stevie. Then he turned to me. "He doesn't mean it," he said. But I was already mad. I shouted at Stevie. I said, "I don't care what your mama says. She's not my mama, so she can't tell me what to do." "Now I'm going to tell my mama you said that about Stevie," shouted Stevie. "And she'll tell your daddy, and he'll shame you in front of the whole church. And that pet shop man is retarded, and he was in jail, and I wonder if your daddy knows that." Now, let me say a couple things here. First of all, they use the word retarded, which is not a word we use nowadays. I don't ever want to hear any of you using that word because it's just not a nice thing to say. If people that are developmentally challenged, they may have some challenges learning some things. A long time ago, like when I was a little girl, they would use the word retarded, but now it's just a very derogatory term. It's just not a nice thing to say at all, and I don't ever want to hear any of you saying that, okay? But it's in the book, so we read it, but just know that that's not an okay word to say, okay? Another thing I want to mention, so Stevie says, "I'm going to tell my mama, and she's going to tell your daddy, and he's going to shame you in front of the whole church." Now what that means is that he would get after Opal in front of the whole church. Do you think the preacher would do that? Do you think he would have Opal, that he would get after her when the whole congregation was there? I don't know. I don't think he would, do you? I feel like the preacher doesn't say much, but I certainly think he's a fair person, and I don't think yelling at Opal in front of the whole church is a very nice thing to do. Now, should she have, well, wait, let me keep reading. I'm not sure if I've gotten there yet. Okay. "Otis is not retarded," I said, "and my daddy knows that he was in jail." Now that was a lie, but I didn't care. "And you can go ahead and tell on me if you want, you big bald-headed baby." I swear it about wore me out yelling at Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry every day. By the time I got to Gloria Dump's yard, I felt like a soldier who had been fighting a hard battle. Gloria would make me a peanut butter sandwich straight off, and then she would pour me a cup of coffee with half coffee and half milk, and that would refresh me. "Why don't you play with them boys?" Gloria asked me. "Because they're ignorant," I told her. "They still think you're a witch. It doesn't matter how many times I tell them that you're not." "I think they're just trying to make friends with you in a roundabout way," Gloria said. "I don't want to be their friend," I said. "Might be fun having them two boys for friends." "I'd rather talk with you," I said. "They're stupid and mean, and they're boys." Gloria would shake her head and sigh, and then she would ask me what was going on in the world and did I have any stories to tell her, and I always did. Now, thinking about this, Gloria, even though those boys are calling Gloria a witch, she's telling Opal, she's saying, "You really should be friends with those boys." So she's kind of defending them. She's like, whatever if they call me a witch, but maybe you should be friends with them, she's saying to Opal. Okay, we'll go ahead and turn the page. We're going to go to chapter 14. Gloria must be a pretty wise person who's very comfortable with herself, that to have the boys calling her a witch, it doesn't even seem to bother her, does it? So she must be very happy with who she is and confident in who she is too. All right, chapter 14, page 92. Sometimes, so she's still in Gloria Dump's house. Sometimes I told Gloria the story Miss Franny Block had just told me, or I imitated Otis tapping his pointy-toed boots and playing for all them animals, and that always made her laugh. And sometimes I made up a story, and Gloria Dump would listen to it all the way through from beginning to end. She told me she used to love to read stories, but she couldn't anymore because her eyes were so bad. "Can't you get some really strong glasses?" I asked her. "Child," she said, "they don't make glasses strong enough for these eyes." One day, when the storytelling was done, I decided to tell Gloria that Otis was a criminal. I thought maybe I should tell an adult about it, and Gloria was the best adult I knew. "Gloria," I said. "Mm-hmm," she said back. "You know Otis?" "I don't know him, but I know what you tell me about him." "Well, he's a criminal. He's been in jail. Do you think I should be afraid of him?" "What for?" "Well, I don't know, for doing bad things, I guess, for being in jail." "Child," said Gloria, "let me show you something." She got up out of her chair real slow and took hold of my arm. "Let's the two of us walk all the way to the back of this yard." "Okay," I said. We walked, and Winn Dixie followed right behind us. It was a huge yard, and I had never been all the way back in it. When we got to a big old tree, we stopped. "Look at this tree," Gloria said. I looked up. There were bottles hanging from just about every branch. There were whiskey bottles and beer bottles and wine bottles, all tied on with string, and some of them were clanking against each other and making a spooky kind of a noise. Me and Winn Dixie stood and stared at the tree, and the hair on top of his head rose up a little bit, and he growled deep in his throat. Gloria Dump pointed her cane at the tree. "What do you think about that tree?" I said, "I don't know. Why are all those bottles on it?" "To keep the ghosts away," Gloria said. "What ghosts?" "The ghost of all the things I done wrong." I looked at all the bottles on the tree. "You did that many things wrong?" I asked her. "Mm-hmm," said Gloria, "more than that." "But you're the nicest person I know," I told her. "Don't mean I haven't done bad things," she said. "There's whiskey bottles on there," I told her, "and beer bottles." "Child," said Gloria, "I know that. I'm the one that put 'em there. I'm the one who drank what was in 'em." "My mama drank," I whispered. "I know it," Gloria Dump said. "The preacher says that sometimes she couldn't stop drinking." "Mm-hmm," said Gloria again. "That's the way it is for some folks. We get started and we can't get stopped." "Are you one of those people?" "Yes, ma'am, I am. But these days I don't drink nothing stronger than coffee." "Did the whiskey and the beer and the wine, did they make you do the bad things that are ghosts now?" "Some of them," said Gloria Dump. "Some of them I would have done anyway, with alcohol or without it, before I learned." "Learned what?" "Learned what is the most important thing." "What's that?" I asked her. "Well, it's different for everyone," she said. "You find out on your own. But in the meantime, you gotta remember, you can't always judge people by the things they done. You gotta judge them by what they're doing now. You judge Otis by the pretty music he plays and how kind he is to them animals, because that's all you know about him right now. All right?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "And them Dewberry boys, you try not to judge them too harsh either. All right?" "All right," I said. "All right then," said Gloria Dump, and then she turned and started walking away. Winn Dixie nudged me with his wet nose and wagged his tail. When he saw I wasn't going, he trotted after Gloria. I stayed where I was and studied the tree. I wondered if my mama, wherever she was, had a tree full of bottles, and I wondered if I was a ghost to her, the same way she sometimes seemed like a ghost to me. Now, so Gloria Dump shows Opal this tree full of bottles, and apparently Gloria in the past had had a drinking problem, and she said she hung these bottles on there just to remind her of many of the things that she had done wrong in the past. Now, she doesn't drink like that anymore, but she said she admits she had a problem with drinking. And Opal was like, yeah, my mama has a problem with drinking too. And Opal wondered, does my mama have a tree full of ghosts like that? It's just, I guess, the reminder that there's things in your past that maybe you're not very proud of. But the neat thing about Gloria, she goes on to say, don't judge people. She's telling Opal, like about Otis, that he had been a criminal. He was in jail. And Gloria said, all you know is the Otis that you know now. So judge him on that, on who he is now. Everybody's done things that they're not proud of. I have, you have, I'm sure, things that you're just not, you're kind of ashamed of. But that doesn't mean that you're that same person now. People can change. They can change for the better. A lot of times we learn from our mistakes, and we learn how to be better people because of that. So Gloria's point is, just don't judge people. Look at who they are right now. And she also said the Dewberry Boys, even though they're calling Gloria Dump a witch right now, Gloria's saying don't judge them too harshly. They just, sometimes people, they use the word ignorant in here. Sometimes when people make, or say things that aren't very nice, sometimes it's because they're ignorant. They just don't know better. So Gloria's saying you got to kind of be compassionate to them because they're just stupid. They don't know better. So Gloria seems like a very wise person. A lot of times older people have a lot of wisdom because they've lived a long time. That's why it's really neat sometimes to talk to your grandparents and hear their opinion on things, because oftentimes they know a lot. Moms and dads, you know what, believe it or not, they know a lot of stuff too. They've already been a kid. They've lived life longer than you have, and a lot of times they just have that wisdom that maybe you're working on getting. Just like you're wiser than a 4-year-old because you've just lived longer and you learn. As long as you learn from what's happened. Now, if you don't learn from what's happened, I can't say you're very wise. You have to learn from your mistakes, right? Okay. I think I am in the mood for a peanut butter sandwich. I don't know about you, but that's kind of put me in the mood. Winn Dixie going to Gloria Dumps for his peanut butters made me want a peanut butter sandwich. So we're going to stop here, and when we come back together, we'll be reading chapter 15, okay? And if you're following along with the schedule, tomorrow will be, with chapter 15 would be Friday, okay? All right. Chapter summary, you can do chapters 13 and 14 together on one page if you want to. They are kind of different things, though. If it's easier, if you think it's better for your little brain to have them written separately, that's fine too. Do what works for you, but whatever you do, I want it done well, okay? All right, you all have a fabulous day, and I will see you next time. Bye. Be sweet. I hate to have to say that every time. I'm afraid some of you might have forgotten. Bye.